Right now, I'm going to tell you a terrifying truth. Your fears are controlling you, not the other way around. But with the 6 steps you'll learn in this video, you can shut down your brain's fear center and activate courage chemicals. Let's test this right now. How many times will you think this won't work for me while watching this video? Hello, welcome to Mental Force Lab. It's time to face that terrifying truth I just told you. Because if you currently have things in your life that you're not doing because of your fears, this video is perfect for you. Maybe you're afraid to apply for that job. Maybe you're scared to tell someone you love how you feel. Maybe you're afraid to move to a new city, start a new hobby, or launch the business of your dreams. Whatever it is, your fear brain is stopping you, and this is going to end now. The 6 steps I'm going to share with you in this video are scientifically proven, tested by thousands of people, and they really work. After learning this system, your fears won't control you anymore. You'll control them. But first, I need to tell you something very important. This isn't an ordinary motivational speech. This is a scientific guide that explains how your brain works and turns that system in your favor. If you just say nice talk and move on, nothing will change. But if you take these 6 steps seriously and apply them, you won't recognize yourself and are you ready? Then let's start not fighting your fear brain, but understanding it and transforming it. First, I want to correct a very common misconception about fear. Most people blame themselves for being fearful. They think, why am I such a coward? Here's the truth. Fear isn't cowardice. It's your brain's mechanism to protect you. Thousands of years ago, fear was life-saving for our ancestors. If you saw a lion in the forest, you needed to run. That fear reflex kept you alive. But in the modern world, this system has malfunctioned. Our brain can no longer distinguish real danger from social danger. Dr. Joseph Ledoux's 20-year research from Harvard Medical School clearly shows this. The brain region called the amygdala responds the same way to both a lion attack and public speaking. In both cases, it sends a run signal. Last month, when my client Emma came to me, she was experiencing exactly this situation. Coach, she said, when I'm about to go to a job interview, my heart rate increases, my palms sweat, I can't breathe. I feel like I'm facing a deadly threat. What Emma was experiencing is very normal, because her brain's emergency system was becoming active. But here's the problem. This system gives false alarms most of the time in the 20s. This is where the courage brain comes into play. And what I call the courage brain is actually the prefrontal cortex. This region is responsible for logical thinking, planning, and evaluating fears. With these 6 steps, we're going to strengthen exactly this region and bring the amygdala under control. Research by Dr. Earl Miller from MIT shows that when we strengthen the prefrontal cortex with the right techniques, we can reduce our fear reflexes by up to 70%. So turning off your fear brain and turning on your courage brain isn't just a dream, it's a scientific reality. The first step is to decode the anatomy of your fears, because you can't fight an enemy you don't know. Fear develops in 3 stages, and if you understand each stage, you can intervene. When I first tested this system on myself, I was very surprised. I had been experiencing stage fright for years. But when I analyzed these 3 stages, I realized this. The real fear wasn't going on stage. The real fear was the thought of being embarrassed. The moment I understood this difference, everything started to change. Because being embarrassed isn't a real threat, it's a scenario I created in my mind, and I could deal with this scenario logically. You can do the same thing. Think of something you're afraid of right now. What really triggers that fear? What do you feel in your body? And what's your avoidance behavior? The moment you write these 3 down, your control over your fear begins. After my client Mark did this exercise, he said, "Coach, I've been afraid to start my own business for 10 years. But now I understand my real fear wasn't failure, it was worrying about what my family would say." This is a much simpler problem. Decoding fear anatomy doesn't eliminate fear, but it allows you to develop a strategy against it. And strategy is the first step of courage. The second step is releasing courage chemicals in your brain. This is a very powerful technique because you're fighting fear, not just mentally, but physically too. When we talk about courage chemicals, there are 3 important hormones: dopamine, noradrenaline, and testosterone. When these 3 are active, you feel strong, determined, and ready. When fear chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline are active, you feel the need to run. Dr. Amy Cuddy's research from Yale University revealed a groundbreaking discovery. Body language doesn't just send messages to others, it also sends messages to your own brain. When you display a powerful posture, the brain releases courage chemicals. Here's the power pose technique. Stand up, open your chest, pull your shoulders back, put your hands on your waist, or raise them in the air. Hold this position for exactly 2 minutes. It might seem ridiculous, but science supports this. My student Sarah used this technique in the bathroom before a job interview. I can't believe it, she said. After standing in that pose for 2 minutes, I felt very different. I felt like I was strong and ready. The interview went very well, and I got the job. But there are other ways to activate courage chemistry. Deep breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system and reduces fear response. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 6 seconds. Repeat this 5 times. Another method is the past courage memories technique. Remember a moment when you were afraid but did it anyway. Relive those powerful feelings mentally. This technique makes the brain produce the same chemical combination again. Research from Stanford shows that when you combine these techniques, fear hormones decrease by 40%, while courage hormones increase by 30%. So you're not just thinking positively, you're actually changing your brain's chemistry. The third step is what I think is the most important. Micro-courage training. This technique strengthens your courage muscle. Because courage is like a muscle, it gets stronger as you use it. Most people make big mistakes about courage. They live timidly for years, then try to take a giant step all at once. This almost always ends in failure, because the courage muscle isn't strong enough. Micro-courage training is based on this principle: do something very small but slightly uncomfortable every day. Make it so small that it's impossible for you to fail, but require enough courage that you sweat a little. Let me give examples. When the waiter says, "Enjoy your meal," instead of automatically saying, "You too," say thank you. Don't leave a store without asking about prices. Always ask something before leaving. Say good morning to someone you don't know in the elevator. Ask people in front of you in the cafe line, "How's your day going?" This might seem simple, but it strengthens the brain's courage network. Studies from Princeton show that people who do social courage exercises experience a 60% increase in self-confidence. My student, Jake, applied this technique for 30 days and his life completely changed. On the first day, he just thanked the store employee. By the 30th day, he asked out the girl he couldn't talk to for 2 years because of fear of rejection. And yes, she said yes. "Coach," she said, "when I took small steps every day, taking the big step felt so easy. It was like my courage muscle had really strengthened." In micro-courage training, the goal isn't success. It's exercising the courage muscle. Every small step sends a courage is safe message to your brain. And when this message accumulates, you can handle big fears. The fourth step is putting your fears through a reality filter. Because when your brain produces fear, it creates very pessimistic scenarios. Questioning these scenarios with logic can eliminate 80% of your fears. When the brain's fear center makes predictions about the future, it assumes the worst case. This makes evolutionary sense because being prepared for the worst situation ensured your survival. But in modern life, this excessive pessimism unnecessarily magnifies your fears. I have a technique borrowed from cognitive behavioral therapy: realistic risk assessment. This technique consists of 3 questions. First question: what's the probability of this feared thing happening? What percentage? Second question: if it happens, what then? Is it really the end of my life? Third question: if it happens, how will I cope? What are the solution methods? Last week, my client Helen used this technique. She was afraid of presenting at her new job. She answered the first question: my probability of giving a bad presentation is 30%, because I know the topic well and I've prepared. To the second question: even if I give a bad presentation, I won't get fired. I'll just leave a negative impression focused on that day. I can make up for it in subsequent presentations. To the third question: if I give a bad presentation, I can apologize and send a detailed report later. I can explain the situation to my manager. After doing this exercise, Helen's fear level dropped from 8 out of 10 to 3. "Coach," she said, "when I put my fears on paper, I realized how ridiculous they were." Dr. Emma Sapali's research from Stanford shows this: 75% of people who write down their fear scenarios see that those fears don't come true. And the 25% that do happen are much easier to solve than they predicted. With this technique, you bring your fears to realistic proportions, because dealing with realistic fears is much easier. The fifth step is a very powerful but little-known technique in courage development: making peace with the worst-case scenario. This technique comes from Stoic philosophy and means premeditatio malorum, or thinking about evils in advance. The logic is this: When you mentally make peace with the worst version of your fears, that fear loses its power over you because it's no longer an unknown thing. It's a situation you've planned for. The technique is applied like this. Think of the really worst scenario of the situation you fear. Then ask yourself, if this happens, how will I cope? Will my life really end, or will I just go through a difficult period? My student Lisa did this exercise about starting her own business. Worst scenario, if the business fails, I'll be $50,000 in debt. I won't be able to pay rent. I'll be left without money in my family. Then, to make peace with this scenario, she asked these questions. How do I pay off $50,000 of debt? By working somewhere else for 2 years. How do I pay rent? By moving in with my family or finding a roommate. Does my life end in this situation? No, it's just hard for 2 years. After this exercise, Lisa said, I realized that even the worst situation wasn't that bad. Maximum 2 years of difficulty, then back to normal. I can take this risk. Marcus Aurelius says, what you suffer in your mind is more than the suffering itself. When you mentally experience the worst situation, experiencing the real situation becomes much easier. Be careful when applying this technique. The aim isn't to scare you more, but to see the real dimensions of your fears. Most worst cases are much easier to overcome than we think. The final step is creating a courage routine. This step makes the other 5 steps permanent and turns courage development into your lifestyle. Courage doesn't come suddenly, it develops with daily routines. Just like physical strength, courage also strengthens with regular exercise. Therefore, creating your daily courage routine is very important. A courage routine consists of 3 parts: morning preparation, daytime application, and evening evaluation. In morning preparation, do the power pose, breathe deeply, and determine the day's courage goal. Ask yourself, what uncomfortable thing will I do today? Make it small but require courage. In daytime application, do that courage activity you determined. Even if you feel fear, keep doing it. Because courage isn't not feeling fear, it's doing it while feeling fear. In evening evaluation, analyze the day. What did you do? How did you feel? What did you learn? This evaluation helps you see that your courage muscle is strengthening. My student Chris applied this routine for 3 months and said his life completely changed. On the first day, I just addressed the store employee by name, he said. By the end of the 3rd month, I could present my project to managers in company meetings. The power of this routine is incredible. Research from UCLA shows that people who do courage routines increase their confidence levels by 85% within 90 days. Because every day, small courage actions send the message, I am a courageous person, to your brain. The most important point in this routine is consistency. Do it every day. Sometimes small things, sometimes big things. But never skip it, because the courage muscle weakens when not used. Also add variety to your routine. Do exercises from different areas like social courage, talking to strangers, physical courage, trying new sports, intellectual courage, defending different views, emotional courage, expressing your feelings openly. The changes experienced by people who apply these 6 steps are truly incredible. Let me share some real stories with you. Jennifer, 35 years old, had been working the same job for 15 years but was unhappy. She wanted to start her own business but was afraid of the risk. After applying these 6 steps, she quit her job and now owns a successful consulting firm. When I understood fear anatomy, I realized my real fear wasn't failure. It was the judgment of my close circle, she said. This was a much easier problem to solve. Kevin, a university student, was experiencing social phobia. He couldn't talk to anyone, couldn't speak up in classes, stayed outside of groups. After applying micro-courage training, he's now the president of student clubs. I started being a little braver every day, he said. After 30 days, I couldn't recognize myself. Michelle, 40 years old, was unhappy in her 20-year marriage but was experiencing fear of separation. After using the technique of making peace with the worst case, she spoke courageously and now they have a much healthier relationship. When I realized that even the worst case wasn't as bad as I thought, I felt relieved, she said. These stories aren't exceptional. These techniques are science-based and tested by thousands of people. You can experience the same change too. There are common mistakes you need to be careful about when applying these 6 steps. The first mistake is trying to progress too quickly. The fallacy of taking big steps saying, I'm going to be very brave. Build your courage slowly. The third mistake is skipping the routine. Only applying when you need courage. The courage muscle must work regularly. The fourth mistake is comparing with others. The thought, he's braver than me. Everyone's courage journey is different. To avoid these mistakes, be patient, accept yourself, and progress at your own pace. At the beginning of the video, I asked you, how many times will you think this won't work for me during this video? Now answer honestly. How many times did that thought come to your mind? This is normal because the fear brain is trying to protect you. But now you know its tricks, and you've learned to control it with 6 steps. These steps might seem very simple in theory, but they're life-changing in practice because courage isn't a talent, it's a skill. And like every skill, it's learned and developed. Now I'm making my final challenge to you. Right after finishing this video, will you do the fear anatomy exercise today? Will you analyze something you're afraid of and break it down into 3 stages? Is developing courage difficult? Yes, a bit difficult. Is it worth it? Absolutely worth it, because a courageous life is a full life. Don't forget to like this video, share it with friends who want to develop courage, and definitely subscribe to Mental Force Lab because we share practical and scientific content like this every day. Also write in the comments, which of these 6 steps will you try? Which fear will you start with? Because your courageous steps inspire others. And remember, courage is contagious. When you're courageous, you encourage the people around you too. Until we meet in the next video, keep turning off your fear brain and turning on your courage brain. One final reminder, the bravest people aren't those who don't feel fear, but those who do it despite fear. You can be one of them too.